And we're back. Hey, BookTube. Welcome back to my continuation of my massive barn door busting. What are we calling it, honey? It is a book haul to end all book hauls.
I still think you're walking on dangerous ground.
She says I'm walking on dangerous ground, skating on thin ice. Um, I thought I could get this entire haul into one video, but as I was creeping up on the 1 hour mark, and the first video is 45 minutes. I just looked at what remained and I said no. In good conscience, there's no way I can upload an hour and 30-minute book haul video. People would think me certifiably insane. And they would be right. So welcome back. I'm probably going to maybe post this the day after, just to give you guys some time to absorb all the different books I threw at you in the first video. So, all right, so here's a book. This is on Hamilton Book. I didn't buy it from there, but I found it even cheaper from a third-party seller. But this was a beautiful, like, coffee table-sized book. And I was just so intrigued. And I've been thinking about getting this book, guys. This is an illustrated history of Kazakhstan, Asia's heartland in context, by Jeremy Threadnick. Just, big, oversized. Let me see, I'll give you some pictures and stuff. I love stuff. I'm nerdy. I like to look at the big maps. And, oh, even more. Oh, I just broke. You hear that crack? I just broke the spine. I didn't break the spine. Well, I might have broken it. Well, it is so brand new. Oh, I hate when that happens. Anyway, just an overall look at, the nature, the land, the culture. Why did that snap in half right where that... Okay, I guess that's normal. History. It's just gorgeous. It says here, to tell the story of Kazakhstan's history is to reach far beyond its Kazakh past and range much farther than its already expansive borders. This lavishly illustrated book reveals the full history of the heart of Central Asia across the ages, focusing on the region that is modern-day Kazakhstan. Using essays from renowned archaeologists, historians, and scholars as the core of each chapter, this book explains the country's long and complex history as a single flowing narrative, complemented by a range of maps, illustrations, and beautiful images, from exquisite museum pieces to rare archive photographs and landscapes that place you within the hauntingly beautiful environment that molded the region's rich social fabric. So, again, I think, as Martine mentioned in the last video, just the sense of being homebound and not even just getting out to go up to the mountains, or hell, even down the road to the park. And we're not even getting snow. I just have been wanting books that just take me to another place. And it gives me lots of different pictures and maps and images and, of course, blended with history, which is what I love, obviously. This book just fit the bill, and trying to find you a really beautiful... again, a lot of good stuff in archaeology. Sean Standfast, I know he's into archaeology. Just learning about a different culture. And this is a new nation. Independence and first steps into a modern world. It's just a really great, oversized, beautiful look at a country I probably will never see. But hey, that's what reading can do for you. You know what I'm saying? The next two books were like low stock on bargain or bookoutlet.com. And these are for my World War II library. They're illustrated histories. This one is more of like almost like a... It feels like an oversized graphic novel or something, the way it's printed. Very, very easily kind of flops open. But this is on the Luftwaffe. The Illustrated History of the German Air Force in World War II. This is put out by Amber Books. It was really marked down, but just lavish photographs. Just a very brief, high-level history of the Luftwaffe. kind of cool. Um, yeah, I could just spend all day just kind of just browsing through here, looking at the pictures. That many of these I haven't seen before. You know. Wow. So anyway, just yeah, little book. This one, the next one is a little bit bigger. It's a bigger sized, but I was really excited for this one. I wanted this one first, and then I saw the Luftwaffe, and I thought, well, that would make sense to kind of keep it with this. But this is a big illustrated history of U-boat, the German submarine campaign, and the Allied counterattack, 1939 to 1945. Also put out by Amber Books. So, little thin little soft cover here. Bit more on the text. So there's more writing here, there's more history, but really gets into the details. Sorry, kind of lost my mic there. I'm trying to show you guys on the subs themselves, and I've always been intrigued by submarines and those who serve in the submarines, and just one of my favorite foreign movies is Das Boot.
Yeah, that's uplifting.
It doesn't have to be uplifting. They all died. That's right. Anyway, sorry, spoiler alert. But not in the way you think. Anyway, just a really nice, again, high-level view, 50,000 feet view of U-boat warfare. I have several books on I have like a book on the Grey Wolves, the U-boat commanders. There's great books out now. I think Ian Toll just finished his trilogy on the Pacific War, and I know he included a lot on the submarine warfare. I'm trying right now to track down the two-book series, or not a series, but Ian Ballantyne. He wrote The Deadly Deep a few years ago, and I've been trying to get my hands on an affordable hardcover copy. Sometimes I have to wait a few years to get these books that I want in the format that I want and in the condition I want, and I can wait. But I was able to find. We'll see how it arrives. I bought it used like new, so we'll see. And then I saw that Book Outlet has his second book on the undersea service that Britain had in World War II, the undersea submarine service. So I'm kind of interested in that one too. I think it's called Undersea Warriors. But look at these photos. I mean, I'm trying to get you a good view. They're really big and oversized, and I love that. So anyway, kind of, got my little World War II history geek in me got all excited. I was like, let me get these U-boat Luftwaffe. So a couple videos ago, I mentioned to you guys I've been getting into the espionage and the spy master and the spycraft stuff, which is true. And thanks to that book by Scott Anderson, I remember his name now, The Quiet Americans. It really deserved all the blurbs it got and all the coverage, and it's like a bestseller. It's a great book. I came across this book, and I wanted to get it in conjunction with this other book that I will show you in a second. But this one I had to order used, and I still have a sticker on the front. This is called Enemies Within by Richard Davenport Hines. And this is Communists, the Cambridge Spies, and the Making of Modern Britain. Okay, so technically I didn't get this from my bargain outlets, but I bought it used to go in conjunction with the book I did buy from Hamilton. But it's about what pushed Blunt, Burgess, Cairncross, McLean, and Kim Philby into Soviet hands. Enemies Within is a new history of the influence of Moscow on Britain, told through the stories of those who chose to spy for the Soviet Union. It also challenges entrenched assumptions about abused trust, corruption, and establishment cover-ups that began with the Cambridge Five and the disappearance of Guy Burgess and Donald McLean on the night boat to St. Malo in 1951. In a book that is as intellectually thrilling as it is entertaining and illuminating, Richard Davenport Hines traces the bonds between individuals, networks, and organizations over generations to offer a study of character, both individual and institutional. At its core lie the operative traits of boarding schools, the universities of Oxford and Cambridge, the Intelligence Division, Foreign Office, MI5, MI6, and Moscow Center. Now this is a big boy, and this is a big chunk. Oh, there's a picture of Lytton Strachey in here too. What do you know? over here, I think. There they go. Oh, Lytton Stray, she took this picture of the boating party here. So if I can... It's hard to do this backwards. I don't know what the deal is. Anyway, so I got Enemies Within about the Cambridge a spy set and stuff, and then this one is very focused in, and this was I think on Hamilton book, and this is on Guy Burgess, and this is Stalin's Englishman. Guy Burgess, The Cold War and the Cambridge Spy Ring by Andrew Lowney. There you go, St. Martin's Press. This was from 2015. Let's see. Got a lot of blurbs here. This is the first full-scale biography of Guy Burgess and tells the extraordinary true story of the man at the heart of the notorious Cambridge spy ring and a linchpin of Cold War espionage. So Guy Burgess was the most important, complex, and fascinating of the Cambridge spy ring. Out of all of them, he's saying, out of Maclean, Philby, and Blunt, all brilliant young men recruited in the 30s to betray their country to the Soviet Union. An engaging and charming companion to many, an unappealing, utterly ruthless manipulator to others, Burgess rose through academia, the BBC, the British Foreign Office.
The BBC, that's the part that makes...
He rose through MI5 and MI6, gaining access to thousands of highly sensitive secret documents, which he passed to his Russian handlers. Andrew Lowney shows us how even Burgess's chaotic personal life of drunken philandering and promiscuous homosexuality did nothing to stop his penetration and betrayal of the British intelligence service. Don't say it. Even when he was under suspicion, the fabled charm that had enabled many close personal relationships with influential establishment figures, including Winston Churchill, prevented his exposure as a spy for many years. Through interviews with more than 100 people who knew Burgess personally, many of whom have never spoken before about him, and the discovery of hitherto secret files, Stalin's Englishman brilliantly unravels the many lives of Guy Burgess and all their intriguing, chilling, colorful, and tragicomic wonder. That's a mouthful. It's a good picture. It's a good photo of the guy. Yeah, so anyway, forgive us for some of our more juvenile...
I'm always in the gutter.
Okay, moving on. We're going to move to American history here. This seemed really good, and it seemed like an academic, slightly academic, but, you know, I haven't seen this anywhere else, and it came out in 1996, and I thought it covered an interesting part of American history that I haven't really read about in a long time. And this is about like the railroads and how the railroads, you know, span the continent and brought it all together. This is Passage to Union, how the railroads transformed American life, 1829 to 1929, by Sarah H. Gordon. And this was put out by Ivan R.D. Books. Again, it came out in 1996, so it's been out for a little while. But just a beautiful brand new hardcover. The coming of the railroads drew together the vast geographical reaches of the new American nation. In short, the railroads transformed American life like no technology ever had or perhaps ever will. So in Passage to Union, Sarah Gordon has written a richly informed narrative history of the growth of the railroads, an American icon. But her conclusions are surprising. Where the railroads and their entrepreneurs are ordinarily celebrated for their accomplishments, Ms. Gordon finds that the cost of their achievements was high. Conflicts of interest at local, state, and regional levels characterize railroad growth at every stage. Despite the stated aims of government and the railroad corporations to promote settlement and commerce, Ms. Gordon shows that the states lost control of these enterprises and lost the economic benefits of their traffic. That's interesting. Smaller towns withered as people and money flowed to larger cities. By 1900, the union that had emerged reflected the worst fears of railroad critics. The South and West had been settled, but wealth had flowed so heavily to the cities that rural life had lost its attraction. Passage to Union is compelling reading because Miss Gordon has drawn from diaries, memoirs, literature, advertisements, newspapers, and magazines, public records, and railroad history to construct her narrative. So, interesting take. Not too shocking that the railroads actually benefited the cities, but hey, we'll find out when I read this book. Passage to Union. I was debating on whether to pick up this book. A couple times I took it out of the cart and I was like, put it back in. Took it out. And I realized, you know, in my studies of Civil War, And especially when I was, reading a ton of stuff on Lee, and especially on the Overland Campaign of 1864. And I've always read a lot about Robert E. Lee in my Civil War studies, just to, uh, you know, try to get at why there was such a huge myth written around him, the revisionist history of the lost cause, and all this, and that, and then some. And then I realized, you know what, Peg, you are missing a very valuable tool, a book that could give you some of the insight that you're essentially searching for. And that would be to learn about Robert E. Lee's father, because really doesn't it always come back down to that? This is Lighthorse Harry Lee, The Tragic Life of Robert E. Lee's Father. The Rise and Fall of a Revolutionary Hero by Ryan Cole. And this was at HamiltonBook.com. This is put out by Regnery History. Anyone even glancingly in tune with Civil War history kind of knows the story a little bit about Robert E. Lee's father, that he was in the Revolutionary. He was a great cavalry commander. But, I don't know if they remember the part that he basically abandoned his family. And that had a big impact on Lee. And I think that it feeds into a lot of what happened afterward in Lee's life. But let me go ahead and just read you a quick synopsis here. Gallant Revolutionary War hero, quintessential Virginia cavalryman, George Washington's trusted subordinate and immortal eulogist, the father of Robert E. Lee. Ruthlessly effective Southern campaign commander whose victories paved the way for American triumph at Yorktown. Patriarch of a grand Virginia family. Husband to a woman so admired and sought after that she was known as the Divine Matilda. Founding father who shepherded the Constitution through the Virginia Ratifying Convention. Stalwart defender of the Union against all enemies, foreign and domestic. Lee was all those things. But he was also, and then they tick it off, a confidence man, a drifter, imprisoned for debt, caught up in sordid squabbles over squalid land deals, maimed for life by an angry political mob. Lighthorse Harry Lee's life was tragic, glorious, and dramatic, but perhaps because of its sad, ignominious conclusion, historians have rarely given him his due until now. So now historian Ryan Cole presents this soldier and statesman of the founding generation with all the vim and vigor that typified Lee himself. Scouring hundreds of contemporary documents and reading his way into Lee's life, political philosophy, and character. Cole gives us the most intimate picture to date of this greatly flawed but hugely talented man whose influence has reverberated from the founding of the United States to the present day. So it almost sounds like this is going to be a little bit of a hagiography, but I will let you know. What I want to know is how Robert E. Lee related to him. If he found anything new to share on that. Just very, very, very minutely. Okay, he's Robert E. is not mentioned very much for about 3 pages towards the conclusion. But you'd have to admit that this would have an impact. I tell you what, check out Elizabeth Brown Pryor's Reading the Man, which was probably one of the best biographies on Robert E. Lee. And you will find out about the damage that Lighthorse Harry Lee did to his son, which, impacted him throughout his life. So, but it looked like it's something I need to kind of have in my Civil War collection, especially when studying, that person. So, okay, so this was kind of a fortuitous event in that I stumbled across this book. Also had been out for a little while, but the author has it's been out since 2016, but he has a new book out that I saw come across the wires on my history book club. He has a new book on, I think it's called Metropolis. And it's like the history of cities, and it's Ben Wilson. So I thought I probably would get Metropolis, but I thought I could go back and check out this book, which was on a bargain sale from Hamilton. This is Ben Wilson's Heyday, the 1850s and the Dawn of the Global Age. And this was put out by Basic Books. Nice, big, just beautiful book. Again, probably $6. Heyday brings to life one of the most extraordinary periods in modern history. Over the course of the 1850s, the world was reshaped by technology, trade, mass migration, and war. The global economy expanded fivefold. Millions of families emigrated to the ends of the earth to carve out new lives. Technology revolutionized how people communicated, and steamships and railways cut across vast oceans and continents, shrinking the world and creating the first global age. It was a decade of breathtaking and remorseless transformation fueled by the promise of exponential progress. So this book kind of ties in with the Passage to Union that I just showed you about the railroads. Let's see, this kind of just spans everywhere. He's talking about the gold rush to California, fleets of pirate vessels docked in Hong Kong harbor, the West's insatiable hunger for land, natural resources, and new markets encouraged free trade, bold exploration, and colonization like never before. Buoyed by supreme self-confidence, as well as new technologies of war, nations clashed across the globe and indigenous peoples fell victim to the insurgent West. Reckless economic expansion led to lasting ecological damage and the demise of local cultures that could not keep pace with the blistering pace of capitalism and free trade. In heyday, we encounter Muslim guerrilla fighters in the Caucasus Mountains and freelance empire builders in the jungles of Nicaragua, British free trade zealots preying on China, and samurai warriors resisting Western incursions in Japan. A dazzling history of a tumultuous decade, Heyday traces the origins of our globalized world order. So, okay, I can't remember. Did I say at the beginning this was this is not American history. I mean, this is global, which I love. So this takes a look at a decade across the world, and that is far more interesting to me. I mean, I think the part where he's covering America, obviously it ties in, like I said, with the Passage to Union when he's talking about how the railroads tied together the two ends of the country. But I think what I'm really looking forward to reading about is like China, Western incursions in Japan, empire builders in Nicaragua. I mean, how cool is that? So it's a pretty big book, but it's been blurbed highly from like New Statesman, Neil Ferguson, History Today, The Observer. It's like 400 pages of just global history focusing on the 1850s. So Heyday by Ben Wilson. All right, you guys still with me? We're at 27 minutes. We're going to keep pushing on. Two more books here on a theme. I told you maybe about a year ago in one of my videos about books that really made an impact. And one of them was on how cotton, I think it was cotton. Yeah, how cotton as a crop really just brought about the Civil War in a way, in an economic sense, that if it wasn't so lucrative, slavery would have died out. But when the cotton gin was invented, it just reignited the slave trade, or at least the immigration. Well, the migration of slaves from the upper, like Virginia area, down into the deeper South, where cotton was really able to grow fruitfully. But anyway, it was a fascinating study in economics, and I'd never really just been intrigued by a book about a crop before. So I decided that I really wanted to read more about crops and stuff like that. I know, it's weird. So this is a bargain book I found, I think, on Hamilton. It's a Yale University Press book, and it is A Golden Weed, Tobacco and Environment in the Piedmont South by Drew A. Swanson. Beautiful slim volume, hardcover. It's great. It's an exploration of the rise of the crop strain that came to dominate the American tobacco industry and its toll on the southern landscape that produced it. This is an environmental history about a crop of great historical and economic significance, American tobacco. A preferred agricultural product for much of the South, the tobacco plant would ultimately degrade the land that nurtured it, but as the author provocatively argues, the choice of crop initially made perfect agrarian as well as financial sense for the Southern planters. Let's see. He weaves together social, agricultural, and cultural history of the Piedmont region and illustrates how ideas about race and landscape management became entangled under slavery and afterwards. So, fascinating. This, another kind of book on environmental history. Okay, so this one's on tobacco, so I got that real cheap. And then I've been wanting to read about sugar, just not only because of the, again, just the historical significance of the impact of the crop and how it just kind of just perpetuated slavery because of the fact of how lucrative, sugar was and how in demand it was around the world. But also, I wanted to read about how the sugar has been misused over time.
Oh, me. I misuse it daily.
Yeah. Well, here we go. This book is
This is my book.
This is your book. This book is called Sugar.
Yeah.
The World Corrupted: From Slavery to Obesity.
Well,
By by James.
this just feels like a downer of a book. Let's just move on, shall we?
By James Walvin. This is put out by Pegasus
James
Books.
is a kid for
I
me.
bet you James Walvin does not.
He has no
He does
friends.
not countenance any sugar in his diet.
You know what? Life is too short.
This came out to 2018. It says here this. How did a simple commodity, once the prized monopoly of kings and princes, become an essential ingredient in the lives of millions before mutating yet again into the cause of a global health pandemic? Epidemic. Sorry, not pandemic. You see what's on my brain. Prior to 1600, sugar was a costly luxury, the domain of the rich. But with the rise of the sugar colonies in the New World, over the following century, sugar became cheap, ubiquitous, and an everyday necessity. Less than 50 years ago, few people suggested that sugar posed a global health problem, and yet today, sugar is regularly denounced as a dangerous addiction, on a par with tobacco. See last book. While sugar consumption remains higher than ever, in some countries as high as 100 pounds per head each year, some advertisements even proudly proclaim that their product contains no sugar. So basically, in this book, James Walvin, a historian, wants to look at how did sugar grow from prize to pariah. And he looks at the history of our collective sweet tooth. And then looks at the history of, beginning with the sugar grown by enslaved people who had been uprooted and shipped vast distances to undertake the grueling labor on plantations.
Okay, listen, aside from the slavery part, I'm just going to say that guy lives without joy in his life.
He probably does. It's an insightful and probing book, they say. I will take a look. Maybe I will not have that cupcake later.
More for me.
Okay. Do you have it? Sugar?
Undertaken.
Oh, okay. So 2 more outstanding finds that I got that were University Press books, and one came in the shrink wrap. Yes! I get so excited. This was $7.95, and if you try to find it anywhere else, and this is what I do, I kind of price compare. You're looking at $30, $40, $50 to try to find this book. Anyway, this is Saint and Nation, Santiago, Teresa of Avila, and Plural Identities in Early Modern Spain by Erin Kathleen Rowe. And this was put out by the Pennsylvania State University Press. Yeah, so we have Saint and Nation. Okay, we're at 34 minutes. You know what? I need to speed things up a little bit. I'm trying to remember the blurb on the back. I'll just read you a quick blurb from somebody because it's not an overview. But Saint and Nation breaks new ground in the religious and political history of Spain by shifting from the recent focus on local holy figures and institutions to the importance of patron saints on the national level. Saint and Nation makes a strong case for the key role of religion in nation building at a time of crisis and transition from medieval kingdom to modern politicized nation. This work promises to be of great interest to scholars of early modern Europe, history of religion, and political science. And I'm interested in all those things. Plus, I've got a growing library of Spanish history, and it's a new area for me. I've been studying like Russian history for so long, and now it's like the last year and a half I've just been like, my eyes have been, the veil has dropped on just on Spain and just how fascinating Spain's history is. So I was like, this will be perfect, just to kind of take a religious aspect of how religion and the worship of the saints kind of works in that Catholic country from medieval times to now. Okay, and so the next book, this was so out there. This is one of those gems that I find that is just so distinct and different and kind of weird that I was just like, for the price, like $5, $6, I was like, yeah, I'll get it. And this is also from the University of Pennsylvania Press. Check this out, guys. Mad Tuscans and Their Families. A history of mental disorder in early modern Italy. Isn't that fascinating? By Elizabeth.
From the lack of sugar.
It might have been. Elizabeth W. Mellon is the writer. What do we say here? Based on 300 civil and criminal cases over 4 centuries. Elizabeth Mellon reconstructs the myriad ways families, communities, and civic and medical authorities met in the dynamic arena of Tuscan law courts to forge pragmatic solutions to the problems that madness brought to their households and streets. In some of these cases, solutions were protective and palliative. In others, they were predatory or abusive. The goals of families were sometimes at odds with those of the courts, but for the most part, families and judges worked together to order households and communities in ways that served public and private interests. For most of the period Mellon examines, Tuscan communities had no institutions devoted solely to the treatment and protection of the mentally disturbed. Responsibility for their long-term care fell to the family. By the end of the 17th century, Tuscans, like other Europeans, had come to explain madness in medical terms, and the mentally disordered were beginning to move from households to hospitals. In Mad Tuscans and Their Families, Mellon argues against the commonly held belief that these changes chart the rise of mechanisms of social control by emerging absolutist states. Rather, the story of mental illness is one of false starts, expedience, compromise, and consensus created by a wide range of historical actors. Is that not endlessly fascinating? I mean, and it's based on actual cases, so it's, I kind of browsed through, I was reading one of these cases, and it's just, you're reading about a family that's bringing a problem that they have to the courts, and they're trying to work it through together. It's just fascinating. This is back in Renaissance times. So it's just a beautiful University Press book out there just found it out there, and I just love it. It's so much fun. I think
You know what? We're gonna edit this, so just
okay.
pause it.
Okay, we're gonna pause because my dog is coughing. Hey there. Okay, we're back, and so then I found again on the theme of finding rare books for super cheap. They just land in the HamiltonBook.com's warehouse, and you could be saving $200, and no one even knows that they're selling it for dirt cheap. Case in point, this Bad Mama Jamma. This is like a coffee table book of coffee table books. Let me move this microphone so I can show you. This is by MIT Press, okay? Nice big, I was telling Martine when I showed it to her, I said, like, this is like a coffee table book. She's like, this looks like a textbook. But when I opened it, I was like, no, yeah. She goes, yeah, that's definitely for like, a museum piece or something. This is like a book you'd find in a museum, where you'd go in and kind of, the text is very small and limited, you know what I'm saying? Sorry, by the way, the title is The Tropics of Empire, Why Columbus Sailed South to the Indies by Nicholas Way Gomez. It's like this huge, like, let me try to find a picture for you here. Wow. Yeah, this is like a book you'd find in a museum. I'm afraid to open it too far because I know I'm gonna break. Like it's gonna go crack. This is where you have a crack now. Like I did with that last book. Oh wow, look at this. You guys want to know how much I got this for? Let's go ahead and guess while I look for another picture. Yeah, nice big hardcover book. It's about 600 pages. Put out by MIT Press. Let's see, doesn't say what the price is on them. And I think they still have it available on a Hamilton book if anyone's interested. Excuse me, I just coughed. If anyone's interested, this book is $4.95. I got this big, beautiful volume for $4.95. And I bought it quickly because I was like, I don't think they realize what they're selling this for. Unless they just don't know what to do with it. But anyway, The Tropics of Empire, Why Columbus Sailed to the South Indies. It's a work of history, learned, imaginative, and immensely revealing. Gomez recreates the complex and now forgotten world of cosmological and geographical learning within which Columbus planned his voyage to Asia. Through close reading of a vast range of sources, he shows us exactly why Columbus thought he could sail south, as well as west, to Asia, and how he envisioned the material and human world that he would find there. Gomez makes clear that Columbus's wide reading and speculative thinking had dramatic consequences in the real world, not only for him, but for the inhabitants of the Americas. And that was a quote by Anthony Grafton, who was a Henry Putnam University professor of history at Princeton. So this is just the find of all finds, you guys. This thing weighs a ton. So this is definitely like a book you would, if you wanted to put out. I mean, I will shelve it like any other book, but this is something that is just, it's beautiful. And I can't believe I got it for $5. I mean. So then I found another book on Hamilton book put out by MIT Press, and I did not know that they, were doing such things. But this is another book I'm going to add to my Russian collection of current studies. This looks like definitely a textbook, but I'm fascinated. And it was, again, really super cheap. This is Russia, A Long View by Yegor Gaidar, translated by Antonia W. Bui, forward by Anders Aslund. Yeah. And this is, it's definitely under history, economics, and Russia studies. It says here, it is not so easy to take the long view of socioeconomic history when you are participating in a revolution. For that reason, Russian economist Yegor Gaidar put aside an early version of this work to take up a series of government positions as Minister of Finance and as Boris Yeltsin's acting prime minister in the early 90s. In government, Gaidar shepherded Russia through its transition to a market economy after years of socialism. Once out of government, Gaidar turned again to his consideration of, there goes Boomer, hi Boomer. He turned again to his consideration of Russia's economic history and long-term economic and political challenges. This book, revised and updated shortly before his death in 2009, is the result. So yeah, Russia, A Long View. Just a very interesting book, just kind of sitting out there by its lonesome. I kind of looked up the ISBN and browsed it on Amazon to see what kind of the contents, I kind of do that to make sure what I'm getting is what I want. Like, if I see a table of contents, I like to browse the chapter headings, but, talks about Marxism and the impact on, the economic determinism of the 20th century, modern economic growth, talks about the traditional agrarian society, goes into awesome detail. We've got a section here on transition to village settlements and the beginning of property stratification. Only I would find that interesting. So anyway, yeah. So 2 awesome books that I just kind of discovered browsing on the Hamilton book. Those were from HamiltonBook.com, and so cheap that I couldn't countenance not getting them. We're at 44 minutes. Okay, guys, we are on the tail end of this. We have 6 books left. Are you ready? Let's do this. I'm going to do these. Okay, I've got 2 huge hardcovers. Sorry for the dog going back and forth. Brumler's kind of just walking in between the... We have a little curtain there to block the draft. We've been having a draft here lately. So anyway, I got this book. I'm a little bit behind now, but I wanted to order it from Hamilton because it was super cheap. I think in my TBR for the first quarter video, I talked about how I was doing a year-long reading project, buddy read project, with Kim Becker at Middle of the Book March, and Alba at Seriella, and Book Rook, and I think a couple others are joining us, but we were going to do the Wolf Hall trilogy along with the Thomas Cromwell biography, and it would be a year-long thing where we would read 1 book per quarter. And I thought we were starting with Wolf Hall, but apparently no, we were starting with the biography. So I'm a little behind, but I quickly placed an order when I saw that Dermot McCulloch's massive biography, which is the one that we're reading for the first quarter, is the Thomas Cromwell, A Revolutionary Life. Brand new hardcover, as you can see. Beautiful. $7.95 on Hamilton. Look at this. It's massive. So I think the goal was for this first quarter is to read about a third of this book every month, and I am obviously 19 days behind. So I will try to make that up. Kim, everybody, just have patience with me. But I got it, and I wanted to show it. I love it. It's fabulous. I have a couple of other books by Dermot McCulloch as well. But okay, so we're starting with his bio, and we will move into Wolf Hall in the second quarter. Running out of space. Okay, so this book, I first saw this book on Johnny Keane's channel back when, way before I had a BookTube channel, way when I was really just digging his videos, and I mean, I still dig his videos, but I was going deep into his archives and just kind of, looking at his stuff, and I think, so this book has been out, okay, come on, I think it was 2018. Okay, so it was a year before I started my BookTube channel, but I was watching it on Johnny Keane, and he was like, I remember he was like reading it and always holding it up, and I looked into it, I looked at it on Amazon, and it sounded fascinating, and I'd heard of this writer, but I haven't read him yet. I picked up a couple of his works, I think The Tunnel, and something else, but I still have yet to read his fiction, but I wanted to read his essays. This book, thanks to Johnny, it's finally on a bargain list for like brand new hardcover for like, oh, this might have been done. Oh, wait, I got the list right here. $7.95. I got this book for $7.95. Yes, the William H. Gass Reader. So thanks to Johnny Keane, I finally have this book, which is a compendium of William Gass's writing. There's some fiction in here. There's some short stories. But I remember him saying over and over how much he was enjoying this book. And, for Johnny to stick with a book, I mean, to go like all the way through, I mean, he was really enjoying it. Because I know he likes to hop around and kind of dip in and out of books. But he was like reading it nonstop for a long time. And I was like, wow, this must really be good. So we've got fiction in here. We've got some of his essays on artists and, theory. He's written about the medium of fiction, the habitations of the word. He's written stuff on Rilke, Ezra Pound, Borges. So it just sounded like a great book, and it was finally got it for the price I wanted it. So it was worth waiting for a couple of years, 2.5 years actually. So I have the William H. Gass Reader. It's put out by Knopf. So yay for that. So those are two really big, heavy hardcovers. So the last are four quick little soft covers. I will finish out my Russian stuff that I've been adding to. I found this book just out there. I had to get it because I'm all things Russian. Myth, Memory, Trauma. Rethinking the Stalinist Past in the Soviet Union, 1953 to 70 by Polly Jones. So a little, again, this was a University Press book, soft cover though. But whenever I see University Press books, my eyes light up because I'm just like, oh, I know this is going to be good. It's going to be some quality here. This was put out in 2013. In lieu of an actual overview, it's blurbed to the high heavens on the back. Let's see. Someone said, what a book. Moving deftly between history and literary scholarship, Polly Jones shows how Stalin's ghost continued to haunt Soviet society after 1953. Prodigiously researched and beautifully written, Myth, Memory, Trauma is bound to become the standard work on the Stalin cult's long afterlife, which is fascinating. I've read all about the time of Stalin, but what about what came after? Is like how did the Soviet Union change? How did they kind of slowly morph into the who they are now? But let's see. Some of the chapter headings we have here are The Secret Speech, which I believe they're probably referring to Nikita Khrushchev's denunciation of Stalin, but that actually came out into the public. But anyway, then we have From Thaw to Freeze, Party History and Soviet Literature, 56 to 57. Forgetting Within Limits, Censorship and Preservation of the Stalin Cult. Trauma and Redemption, Narratives of 1937 in Soviet Culture. And The Cult of Personality in the Early Brezhnev Era. So that sounds fascinating. I thought this is a it belongs with my other books on the topic. So I picked up that. This one is kind of different. I'd never seen anything like it, but for the price, let me see here. Oh, for that book that I got for Myth, Memory, Trauma was $5.95. That I just showed you was $5.95. This next book, it's only $4.95. This is Manuscripts Don't Burn. Mikhail Bulgakov, A Life in Letters and Diaries, edited by J.A.E. Curtis. This is put out by Artist Publishers. So yeah, just $5 book. It was put out. It's originally put together in 1991, but this edition came out in 2012. This was a New York Times Book Review notable book back when it came out. And it says here, most of Mikhail Bulgakov's writings were banned during his lifetime. A quarter of a century after his death, his masterpiece, The Master and Margarita, became a worldwide bestseller. With Manuscripts Don't Burn, J.A.E. Curtis presents a gripping documentary biography of Bulgakov, using as source material a partial copy of one of his diaries, which was presumed lost and uncovered decades later in the KGB's archives. That diary and those of his third wife record the nightmarish precariousness of life during the Stalinist purges. Also included are letters to Stalin, in which Bulgakov pleads to be allowed to emigrate, letters to his siblings, intimate notes to his second and third wives, and letters to and from other writers such as Gorky and Zemyatin. And again, as you can see, that they are letter entries. And I do enjoy reading letters, historical letters from personages from history, whether artists, writers, historical figures, military, dispatches. I just love all that stuff. Just it feels like you're right then and there. You're in the moment when you're reading someone's letter and from history and time, So, yeah. So that kind of concludes the Russian history nut in me. And these two books were just short, brief histories, and they're written by the same author. I've been intrigued lately to learn more about the Celts and Druids, and I was able to find these two paperbacks real cheap. Let's see here. I think these were in my previous shipment, so actually, yeah. Well, one is $6.95. So this is Peter Beresford Ellis, and he wrote a brief history of the Celts. So as you can see, a little paperback here. So it's very brief. It's put out by Robinson. This is a UK version of the book. That's why it looks a little different, and it's a little bit different feel here, but it's amply illustrated with images of metal tools and artifacts, different figures that they found in the grave goods and stuff. Fascinating. So it's a brief start, and I wanted to get it to look at the bibliography to see where else I could find more. But there's been tons written on the Celts, obviously, but it looks like Peter Beresford Ellis has written a lot on the Celts. So again, I won't need to read a description. I think it's pretty self-explanatory what this one's about. And so at the same time, I saw that they also had a similar version where it says a brief history at the top, like the other one, of the Druids, a brief history of the Druids by Peter Beresford Ellis. It's a readable and well-researched, a useful guide to those who wish to learn more. Again, got the inside. Inside is, split in with the pictures, the artwork, the graves and stuff. The true nature of a mysterious and powerful cult. Shrouded in lore, legend and lore for centuries, the lives of the ancient Druids continue to invoke fascination to this day. So, yeah. And this again from Robinson Books. This is a UK imprint of Little Brown and Company. So these were two really good companion pieces for us. This one was $7. This one was $7. This one I don't have that receipt, but because I bought it in a separate shipment, but probably the same price. You guys, I think that is it. Things you do for love and books. You know what I'm saying? Wow. Let me know what books appeal to you. Um, Let me know if I was able to, lull you to sleep tonight with this video.
I think people are more concerned that you're about to keel over.
Yeah, I'm getting close to keeling over, but I'll be okay. I made sure I ate something before I did these two videos, because I did these two videos back to back. So it's about 2 hours worth of filming, almost. And I have to give thanks to Martine, my producer. She's been putting together some really nice thumbnails for me, and I think she's putting together right now a couple thumbnails for these videos. So thank you, Martine.
Of course, baby.
BookTube thanks you. I thank you. And here we are at 56 minutes. And thank you if you have stuck around. I appreciate it. Let me know if there's anything here that intrigues you, that you have a tidbit of knowledge about, like a little factoid that, I'm always learning something new from you guys out there. So anyway, that is the book haul to break them all. So much so that it had to be broken up into 2 different videos. So take that, BookTube. All right, until next time, guys. This is Peg and Martine signing off at the History Shelf. Have a wonderful evening, and we will talk to you soon.
Peace out, guys.
Bye.